the White House having day number 2 of their big terrorism summit. But the Islamic extremism, off the table. Can't talk about it. The White House kicked off a 3-day summit yesterday on combating violent extremism on social media. Yes, that's what we're worried about trolls. The administration won't focus on Islamic extremism, won't even mention the term. Quote, you can call them what you want. We're calling them terrorists, a senior Obama administration official said on Monday. The determination not to mention Islam or Muslims comes as ISIS, which I guess the White House being the only people and place in the world that doesn't consider ISIS Islam or Muslim, continues its murderous spree in the name of Islam. Most recently, beheading 21 Egyptian Christians in Libya, which the White House won't admit that either. The rub for the administration is that while the murderers cite their faith as motivation, they don't represent Islam and therefore should not be associated with the religion. That's very stupid. Maybe someone over in the Obama administration should read the piece from The Atlantic. That I read a little bit of that yesterday on the air. Hopefully, and I did see many people passing that around on Facebook and on Twitter yesterday. Remember, The Atlantic, not even close to a conservative publication. And they're out there interviewing Princeton professors, I believe it was Princeton, who said, yeah, ISIS is Islam. And they adhere to what they believe is the interpretation of the Quran. They're not doing anything that's not in the Quran. What the professor say? That those who are denying that ISIS has anything to do with Islam is taking a cotton candy view of Islam and a politically correct view. But the administration, while the murderers cite their faith as motivation, they don't represent Islam. Therefore, shouldn't be associated with the religion. Quote, there's absolutely no justification for any of these attacks in any religion. That's the view of the vast majority of Muslims who have suffered huge casualties from the likes of ISIS or Al-Qaeda. We're not treating these people as part of a religion. We're treating them as terrorists. Well, I'll tell you this. ISIS sure is treating Christians like it's a religion, and a religion they absolutely oppose, and as a religion that they're at war against. They are also at war with people they don't see as Islamic or Muslim enough. ISIS views some Muslims as, well, yeah, you say you're Muslim, but you're not actually doing what the Quran says. But the administration, they don't want to offend anybody. President Obama said he'll speak twice at the summit. So, the summit to talk about terrorism, yet they can't talk about Islamic extremism, and they can't talk about the Muslim terrorist either. Can't talk about it. Let's go to the phone, 770-5790, toll free, 1-800-687-0790. Eric, you're on KFYO.
Hey, Chad, thanks for taking my call.
Yeah.
Just 2 quick points. First of all, I don't know if you saw Drudge where it had a headline of Gallup, Gallup poll and Obama's 50% approval rating.
Yep.
I think they polled likely illegal immigrants that are voting and also ISIS members. But anyways, that's beside the point. I wanted to ask, what is the local Islamic population saying about this?
Well, it's a good thing you asked that question. I don't know. Now,
see, I haven't heard anything.
The only thing that I have even heard from the Muslim Student Association over at Texas Tech is when they were outraged that 3 Muslim students over at North Carolina University were gunned down. And look, there were a lot of people who were outraged about that.
Yeah, but that was regarding a parking space, wasn't it?
Well, that's what they say. Whether it was or not, though, I haven't heard the Muslim Student Association over at Tech say anything about ISIS or, anything kind of going on in the world.
See, it's a vacuum. We're not hearing anything from them.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I just want to make that point. Appreciate you, Chad.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
And of course, the opposite side will say, well, they shouldn't have to speak out. Someone should. Again, I would fully expect, is there a Catholic Student Society over at Tech? Catholic. I think there is a Catholic student something over at Tech. We're going to assume there is. I'll get a tweet or something here in a second saying, of course, dummy. Yes, there is. I know there's the Campus Crusaders for Christ. We'll go with one of those. If there were a bunch of Christians burning people alive, or if there were a bunch of Christians who took 21 Muslims out to a lake or to a wherever and chopped their heads off, I would fully expect to hear from, Christian student association saying this is wrong. Okay, yes, the Catholic Student Association. I knew there was. I didn't know if they were. But I would fully expect to hear, if a bunch of Catholics were going around lopping people's heads off or burning people alive, you think you would hear some outspoken Catholics. Again, the excuse of, well, we shouldn't have to dignify what they're doing with the response. Maybe you should. And don't look at it as, trying to convince everybody in the world that you don't agree with ISIS. Maybe you look at it as these people are trying to hijack your religion. And by the way, they're doing a pretty damn good job. But these people are trying to hijack your religion. Maybe you should speak out. Especially if you're in the United States, you have a little more safety to do it than you do if you're in Saudi Arabia. You sort of understand, though I disagree, you sort of understand why you don't have a bunch of Egyptians, Saudi Arabians, whatever, standing up and saying, we don't agree with ISIS. Because they're scared to death they're going to get their heads cut off. I wish we would see some people stand up in the Arab world and say, we don't agree with ISIS more than what we have seen. But you don't see it. You don't even see it here in the safety of the United States. The Muslim Student Association over at Texas Tech, they'd rather comment on something that happens at North Carolina University. But they don't, to my knowledge, they haven't said a word about ISIS. They haven't said a word about it. A little more ISIS news out there. ISIS might be harvesting organs. According to the Iraqi ambassador to the United Nations, amid reports more hostages being burned alive. Top Iraqi diplomat told world leaders that ISIS harvesting organs of its victims to fund murderous operations. The latest charge of just how barbarous the ISIS terrorists are. List already includes mass beheadings, burning people alive, crucifying children, and throwing people off buildings. The shocking new claim was presented by the Iraqi ambassador to the United Nations, who said bodies have turned up in mass graves bearing surgical incisions and missing organs, such as kidneys. Can you make a lot of money off of that? I don't know. The ambassador, Mohammed Al-Hakim, leveled the charges as he asked the Security Council to investigate whether harvesting and selling organs to investigate the claim. Also followed unconfirmed reports Tuesday that as many as 45 people captured by ISIS in the Anbar province had been rounded up and burned alive. Quote, we have bodies, he told his international counterparts, come and examine them. They're missing certain parts. So that's the latest charge there from the Iraqi ambassador. The Italians apparently fear an invasion from ISIS. Last weekend in Italy, the threat of ISIS in Libya hit home with a new video addressed to the nation signed by the blood of the cross, warning we are south of Rome. Italian Prime Minister shuttered the Italian embassy in Tripoli, raised his fist with the threat of impending military action. According to the Daily Beast, never mind that Italy only has 5,000 troops available that are even close to deployable, according to the defense minister. Or that the military budget was cut by 40% 2 years ago, which has kept the acquisition of 90 F-35 fighter jets hanging in the balance and left the country combat challenged to lead any mission, especially one against an enemy like the Islamic State. Wow, think about this. The Daily Beast is saying, and if this is true, that ISIS has a better military than the Italians. That's scary to think about. That the Italian military is not a match for ISIS. Meanwhile, Barack Obama, he's playing golf somewhere. He's just hanging out. The White House, the only place in the world not wanting to call the Islamic State the Islamic State.